What's up guys, it's James here, and in today's video I want to talk to you about the great real estate opportunity of 2020. Now, a lot of us remember, if we think back into the past, we remember the great recession of 2008, this huge collapse of the financial markets. We remember that housing prices dropped drastically, and for so many people, this is a very, very challenging time. Now, for other people, this represents a time of great opportunity. You might be one of those people that was able to snatch up a property for well below market value, and you've seen that property's value skyrocket over the 12 years that have followed. Now, right now, we're experiencing a lot of hardship. There's a lot of people who are out of jobs. There's a lot of people who are struggling financially right now. And just as there was in 2008, there are a lot of people who are reaping massive rewards by taking advantage of a huge opportunity that is present right now. Now, the hard thing about this is that it's oftentimes not until after the fact that most people realize the opportunity that was sitting right in front of them. Also, of course, you need to be in a position to act on the opportunity. Just identifying that there was an opportunity back in 2008 didn't mean that you were able to take advantage of it. You needed to be positioned well enough that you actually had the cash set aside when most people were struggling massively to go in and buy up undervalued properties. Fix them up, renovate them a bit, hold them for a long time, whatever it took to make sure that property ended up being a really great, worthwhile investment for you. Now, similarly, right now, if you want to take advantage of the opportunity that's happening in 2020, you need to have the right set of skills and tools and really have yourself prepared to take advantage of this. Now, the nice thing about the opportunity that's happening right now, one of the biggest ones that I see in real estate right now, is that you don't have to have money to get started in it. The barrier to entry is not financial like it was back in 2008. Now, what you do need to have is the right set of skills and tools to take advantage of this. And so I'm going to talk to you more about that in this video. I'm going to talk about what this opportunity is and how you can take advantage of it. And so we all know, if you've been sticking around with this channel before, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that there's a huge opportunity with Airbnb right now in 2020. Very contrary to what most people would expect, myself included, this year has been a tremendous year for a lot of Airbnb and short-term rental listings. Now, the reason behind this is quite simple. Airbnbs are a great place to book that are not hotels. Are not as crowded as hotels. So for people that are looking to travel, they can stay in a place where they're going to have their own place and not be near other people. Now, at face value, you'd think, okay, well, that's great, but people still just aren't traveling, James. So it doesn't matter if it's a better place to travel to than a hotel because people aren't traveling at all. Now, I would have expected the same, but the reality is actually quite different from that. The reality is that there is a lot of domestic travel happening right now, especially in big countries like the US, who spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on tourism every single year. Now, typically that money would go all over the world for tourism, but now it's very much domestic tourism. We're seeing a lot of people staying within a couple hundred miles of their home because they don't want to hop onto a flight, or quite frankly, they just can't, and so they're choosing to travel very close to home. That's going to be the dominating force for the rest of 2020 and into 2021. Now, if you want to get in on that opportunity, then the formula is quite simple. There's a couple different options for how to get into Airbnb. One is to buy a property for Airbnb. Now, markets are going crazy, real estate values are up in the air, and so buying a property might not be the best call, especially because it takes a huge amount of upfront capital to pay for that down payment, get it all furnished, set up for Airbnb. That's going to potentially be pretty risky. Now, the other option is what's called rental arbitrage, where you rent a property and furnish it up and put it onto Airbnb. Now, there are some great opportunities for that. There's a couple different large companies that do this, like for example, Sonder, that some of you may have heard of, that have started defaulting on a lot of their properties because they just weren't able to hold those properties, hold on to them. And so they've left properties that the owners really want someone to come in and take up those properties. A lot of time they even still have furniture in those properties because they were just flat out abandoned. And so as a rental arbitrage operator, you can go in and take advantage of that opportunity and rent up that property. Now, the huge risk here is that, hey, what if you do come across a rough patch in your hosting? What if you do have a sustained amount of time without bookings? Obviously, that's what Sonder and these companies were experiencing that led them to default on the properties in the first place. Not to mention the fact that you have to go out of pocket for the first and last month's rent, as well as any additional furniture that's needed for the listing. Now, this can be a good model and people can do well with it if you're, quick to find solutions to problems, like for example, having longer term bookings when the pandemic first hit. Those are some potential solutions. However, you still are carrying that risk and the stress associated with that risk with you as you grow. Now, the other challenge with this type of business model is that you have to keep reinvesting your profits in order to grow the business, because you're going to take those profits and invest them into first and last month's rent plus furniture for another listing. So for all those reasons, I don't think that rental arbitrage personally is a strategy that I would ever pursue. I have in the past and I wouldn't do it again for those reasons, and I don't generally recommend that most people get into it. However, if you do want to get into Airbnb and you don't want to do it through buying and you don't want to do it through the risky model of rental arbitrage, there is a really great third option. Now, this is an option that's actually fantastic right now and booming with demand, because a lot of people are opening up their properties for Airbnb and opening up for the opportunity of having a property manager for a couple key reasons. So what is this opportunity? What is the third chance that you get? What is the third model you can use to get into Airbnb that doesn't require the risk and doesn't require the upfront capital? Well, again, if you're not new to the channel, if you've seen any of my other videos, you would have heard me talk about it a lot. It's Airbnb property management. This is where you manage a property for a percentage of the overall revenue. Meaning you're not paying for rent, you're not paying first month's or last month's, you're not paying for the furniture, the property owner is taking care of all of that. You're just going to the property owner and saying, look, I'll take care of all the details, all the management of the day-to-day in exchange for a percentage of the overall revenue. Now, the great thing about this for you is that there's no potential downside, there's no upfront capital, there's no risk. The worst case scenario, in your worst possible month, you would just be at zero. If the property brought in not a single booking, which is really, really hard to do, you would still never go negative the way that you could with rental arbitrage or home ownership, because you have those overhead costs of your rent, your mortgage, utility bills, internet, things of that nature. So that's a really, really great model to get started. Now, the huge benefit for the property owner is that they get to actually increase their income. Now, this seems a little bit counterintuitive because they're giving a percentage of it to you, but if you know the right skills in order to optimize the performance of the listing, you can actually boost that up and help them to make even more money than they were without you. Now, again, if you want to learn exactly how to get started on that, having no experience with Airbnb or maybe even a little bit of experience with Airbnb, wherever you might be starting at, there's a link down in the description below to a free training where you can check out the step-by-step process that I used to do this and build this business from the ground up, having never even stayed in an Airbnb before. I started with no experience about 4.5 years ago, and I built up the business really quickly to be a very successful, nice lifestyle business. So if you want to check that out, just check out the link in the description below. You can go through that free training and see me walk through step-by-step how to do this and how to do this in a way where you're adding a ton of value to the property owners that you work with. That's at the core of all of our business philosophies, honestly, and all of our business strategies, is really being able to deliver a massive amount of value to property owners. Now, there are a ton of property owners right now that need this service, because one of the great things about Airbnb is that as things do start to rebound, there's going to be a huge opportunity for people to recap money on their properties that they've lost over the last couple months of having it sit vacant if it was a traditional long-term rental. There's also a lot of property owners right now that are living outside of their hometown. They're traveling to places that are cheaper to live because they can. So many people have remote work right now. So we're seeing a big influx of people that are reaching out to us and saying, hey, look, I'm moving down to South America for the foreseeable future. I need someone to manage my property up here because I'm not going to be nearby. That's a really, really big opportunity if you're into managing properties in a specific area and you can help property owners to do that. And so there's also a lot of property owners that want to have their property on Airbnb and short-term rental, but don't want to have the risk of having these rental arbitrage people default on the rent and then having to take all that risk without actually reaping any of the upside, any of the reward. The nice thing about this for the property owner is they're not locked into any long-term commitment. They don't have to wait on the property manager, the rental arbitrager, to make money and to pay them every single month. They just have bookings coming in from Airbnb consistently. So as long as the property is getting booked, they know that they're getting paid. So there's a huge amount of advantages. We talk about all of them in more detail down the train that's linked down below as far as the advantages for the property owner that make this a total no-brainer for them. Now, like I shared, as you can see with this model, you can get started in it and get into it without any upfront capital, but you do need to have the right tools. There's a right way and a wrong way to build this business. And if you want to get started and you want to be able to look back at 2020 as a year of massive opportunity and massive upside for you, you need to make sure that you really hone and refine those skills so you can skyrocket over the next year. The next year here is going to be looked at by many as a time of economic turmoil and a lot of hardship and challenge. But for the right people who are in the right place at the right time and are prepared to take action, they're going to look back and see this upcoming year as a year of massive, massive opportunity. Already we have students all over the world who have been having their best years ever on Airbnb. So many people are so stuck in thinking that Airbnb is dead and short-term rentals are dead and tourism is dead that they're just missing this massive opportunity where hosts are making incredible returns on their properties just from longer term bookings and domestic travel and housing healthcare workers that need housing. There's a lot of opportunity. You just need to know where to look for it. So if you want to get started in this, you want to start taking advantage of this, then just check out the link down below to the free training and I'll see you on the inside. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.